Putin asserts that a Russian mercenary outfit doesn't exist because it lacks a legal foundation. Russian President Vladimir Putin has confirmed that the Wagner private military company never existed by law, the biggest threat to Putin's 23-year rule during the Ukraine war. There is no law for private military establishments. Absolutely not, Putin told a Russian newspaper late Thursday, referring to the Wagner Group. Putin told Kommersant his own account of the June 29 Kremlin event attended by 35 Wagnerian leaders, including group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. This meeting took place 5 days after Prigozhin and his troops launched a short-lived coup against the Moscow authorities. Kremlin officials announced the news of the meeting earlier this week. In conversation, Putin said that he had rejected Wagner's offer to keep his troops in Ukraine, where they played an important role in the struggle under their close rule. Putin said, "Everyone can gather in one place and go about their business. Nothing will change for them. They will always be led by the same person who is their true leader." Putin had previously said that Wagner's army should choose to sign an agreement with the Russian Ministry of Defense, handing over to Belarus neighbors or decommissioning. Putin said that although many shook their heads when he made the request, Prigozhin rejected the idea and that the children will not accept this decision. Putin said the meeting was led by one of many business options. In an offensive that lasted more than 24 hours, Prigozhin's troops invaded the southern Russian city of Rostov-on-Don and captured the military headquarters. Prigozhin described the move as just a march to dismiss military leaders, who gave Wagner until July 1 to sign a contract with the Defense Ministry. Prigozhin's fate and amnesty for him and his mercenaries, and his permission to emigrate to Belarus under the terms of the agreement that put an end to the armed rebellion are still unclear. The Russian Defense Ministry said on Wednesday that Wagner mercenaries successfully transferred weapons to the Russian army. Their disarming of Wagner seems to reflect the efforts of the Russian authorities to neutralize the threat posed, and to indicate the end of the military operation on the Ukrainian battlefield where the Kiev forces were counterattacking. The anonymous Wagnerian mercenary organization that conducted the June No. President told Kommersant that when he met with Wagner's leaders the day after the failed strike, he offered group leaders many options. "In my interview with them, I evaluated what they did on the battlefield on the one hand, and what they did on June Sky 24 on the other. Third, it showed possible options for its future service, including for combat use." Putin said that's all. He added that they can gather in one place and continue working, and that nothing will change for them. Ask whether the Wagner Group will continue or no, because Russia has no special army law. It was previously said that the Wagner mercenaries received more than $1 billion from the state budget last year alone. "We have no law on private military organizations. There is none. There is a group, but according to the law it does not exist. It must be in the country. The problem was discussed in the Duma and the government. This is not an easy question," Putin added. The president of Russia held a 3-hour meeting with 35 members of the Wagner Group, among which its director, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was engaged in the March for Justice to destroy the Russian army accordingly. On June 29, the Kremlin was accused of abuse of power, saying it did not know the whereabouts of the Wagner Group and its leaders, who were allegedly killed on June 29 by a member of the Wagner Group, a spokesman for the Russian president told reporters. He fled to Belarus in accordance with his agreement with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. According to the latest information, Prigozhin has not yet left Russia. The charges against him were dropped and the money that Wagner received from his office during the coup was returned to him. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that 5 days after the Wagner Prime Minister's worst attack last month, the Wagner Prime Minister met with his mercenaries, giving them the chance to continue their work as leaders in a downstairs room. His 23-year reign was threatened during the war in Ukraine. Speaking to the Kommersant daily business community published on Friday, Putin described the June 29 event in the Kremlin attended by 35 Wagnerian leaders, including group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. He told them he was telling them about his actions in Ukraine, about their revolution, a crime that he talked to the country about on the radio, giving them many options as soldiers in the future. Putin told Kommersant that there is an option for Wagner to continue working under the same commander, Grey Hair, who has led military divisions in Ukraine for the past 16 months. Putin said, "Everyone can gather in one place and go about their business. Nothing will change for them. They will always be led by the same person who is their true leader." Putin said that when he made the proposal, many Wagnerian leaders agreed, but Prigozhin, sitting at the front, did not see their response and immediately dismissed the idea, saying that the children will not accept this decision. Putin didn't say where and how many Wagner could send, and whatever instruction he gave, Wagner's boss finally got it. The Russian Ministry of Defense to neighboring Belarus or to the place of dismissal, ensuring Wagner's staff and their loyalty. The former Russian president informed Prigozhin that he could be sued for finances, saying that Prigozhin's companies received billions of dollars from the state treasury and that investigators would investigate whether the money was stolen. State-controlled media published videos and photos of Prigozhin's estate in Russia's second-largest city showing cash, gold bars and fake passports. Such images are part of the authorities' campaign to defame Wagner's boss, who, despite his financial support for Putin, sees himself as an enemy of the elite. Putin also pointed out that Wagner's work was illegal. There is no law about private military organizations. It simply doesn't exist, he told Kommersant, adding that the government have not yet discussed the issue of military personnel. Rostov-on-Don captured the military headquarters without a single shot, and then 200 kilometers, 125 miles, from Moscow. They granted Wagner access, described as just a move to sack Prime Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov. It shot down 6 military planes and a command plane, killing at least 10 pilots. After receiving an agreement to end the offensive, Prigozhin returned his servants to the camp in exchange for pardoning him and his servants and allowing them to move to Belarus. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who was negotiating to end the uprising, said that Prigozhin was in Russia while Wagner's troops were in their country. He did not specify the location of the camp, but Prigozhin's mercenaries were fighting the Russian army in eastern Ukraine, as well as on Russian soil, before the revolt. When asked whether Prigozhin and his followers would eventually move to Belarus, Lukashenko replied that the decision would be up to President Wagner and the Russian government. While Prigozhin's fate and the terms of the contract remain unclear, the Defense Ministry said on Wednesday that Wagner has completed the transfer of weapons to the Russian army. Their disarming of Wagner seems to indicate the efforts of the Russian authorities to neutralize the threat posed by the group, and to mark the end of the group's military operations in the Ukrainian battlefield where the Kiev army was attacking.